Welcome to Empathy Stories, where we bring you tales of love, betrayal, and the strength of the human spirit. Today's story follows Sophia, a billionaire heiress who embarks on a journey to uncover the truth about her husband's intentions. Stay with us as we witness her brave pursuit of the truth. A twist of fate and a shocking revelation. Sophia had always been surrounded by grandeur. Born into one of the wealthiest families in Beverly Hills, she had grown up in a world where crystal chandeliers illuminated every room and luxury cars lined the driveway. Her parents, Henry and Margaret, had worked tirelessly to build an empire, and as their only child, Sophia was poised to inherit everything. Despite her privileged life, she was no stranger to the challenges of being seen as more than just her wealth. The men who pursued her often came with dazzling smiles and charming words. But behind the facade, they were all the same, enamored by her fortune, not her heart. By her late 20s, Sophia had grown weary of this superficiality. Her friends encouraged her to enjoy the attention, but Sophia longed for something deeper, a love that transcended material gain. It was during one of her routine visits to a company gala that she met Ethan, a branch manager within her family's conglomerate. Ethan stood out in a sea of polished suits and rehearsed compliments. He didn't seem to care about her designer dress or the diamond bracelet on her wrist. Instead, he listened intently as she spoke about her dreams, her ambitions, and even her insecurities. For the first time in years, Sophia felt truly seen. Ethan was handsome but unassuming, his charm understated. He had grown up in a modest middle-class family in Colorado and seemed to embody the values Sophia admired: hard work, humility, and sincerity. Their initial interactions were brief, passing conversations at events or shared moments over coffee, but they left a lasting impression. Over time, those casual exchanges evolved into longer talks, shared meals, and eventually, evenings spent walking along the quiet streets of Beverly Hills. Ethan didn't shower her with extravagant gifts or flowery speeches. Instead, he offered his time, his attention, and his authenticity. Sophia found herself falling for him in ways she hadn't thought possible. Her family, however, was less convinced. "Sophia, you need to be careful," her mother would warn, her tone laced with concern. "You have so much to lose, and you don't know him like we do." Her father echoed these sentiments, reminding her of the countless men who had tried to ingratiate themselves into their lives under the guise of love. But Sophia dismissed their warnings. Ethan wasn't like the others. She assured them he didn't care about her money, he cared about her. Her friends were equally skeptical. Olivia, her closest confidant, was particularly vocal. "I'm just saying, it seems too good to be true," Olivia would remark, her eyebrows knitted in concern. But Sophia brushed off the doubts, choosing instead to focus on the joy Ethan brought into her life. Their relationship blossomed, and within a year, Ethan proposed. The setting was simple yet perfect, a secluded garden bathed in the warm glow of candlelight. Ethan knelt on one knee, his voice steady but filled with emotion as he asked her to be his wife. Sophia's heart swelled with happiness as she said yes, tears streaming down her face. She was certain she had found her soulmate. The wedding was a lavish affair, as was expected of someone in Sophia's position. Guests from all corners of the world attended, their laughter and applause echoing through the grand hall. Sophia's parents, though still cautious, offered their blessings, and Olivia stood by her side as maid of honor. As Sophia exchanged vows with Ethan, she felt a profound sense of hope. This was the love she had waited for, the partnership she had dreamed of. For a time, married life was blissful. Ethan proved to be the attentive husband she had always hoped for, surprising her with breakfast in bed, holding her hand during their evening walks, and sharing dreams of starting a family. They laughed together, planned vacations, and built a life that seemed picture-perfect. Sophia's doubts about his intentions faded with each passing day. But as months turned into years, cracks began to form in their idyllic facade. Ethan started coming home late, his excuses ranging from work meetings to business trips. Sophia, Eva the optimist attributed his absences to the pressures of managing a major branch of the family business. "He's working so hard for us," she told herself, pushing away the creeping unease. Yet, she couldn't ignore the way he seemed distracted, his attention often fixed on his phone or distant thoughts. Her friends noticed the changes too. Olivia, ever protective, began to voice her concerns. "Sophia, you deserve someone who's present. Someone who makes you feel like a priority," she said one evening over dinner. Sophia dismissed her friend's worries with a forced smile, unwilling to acknowledge the growing discontent in her marriage. She wanted to believe that these were just temporary hurdles, challenges that every couple faced. Sophia turned to charity work as a way to distract herself. She threw herself into organizing events, raising funds, and giving back to the community. It brought her a sense of fulfillment, a purpose beyond the confines of her home. Ethan, however, seemed increasingly detached. He attended her charity galas out of obligation, his smile strained and his conversations perfunctory. Sophia tried to bridge the gap, planning romantic evenings and heartfelt conversations. But her efforts were met with lukewarm responses. Late one night, as Sophia lay awake in their sprawling master bedroom, a sense of loneliness washed over her. The room, once filled with laughter and whispered dreams, now felt cold and empty. She glanced at the empty space beside her, where Ethan should have been, and felt a pang of sadness. Maybe he's just tired, she thought, clinging to the hope that things would improve. But the changes in Ethan were undeniable. His once tender gestures became mechanical, his words lacking the warmth they once carried. He stopped asking about her day, stopped noticing the little things that mattered to her. Sophia found herself longing for the early days of their relationship when his presence had been a source of comfort and joy. Now, it felt as though he was slipping through her fingers, leaving her to navigate their marriage alone. Olivia's visits became more frequent during this time, her presence a source of solace for Sophia. They would sit together for hours, reminiscing about their childhood and discussing plans for the future. Olivia's unwavering support gave Sophia strength. But even in those moments of companionship, a shadow of doubt lingered. Something about Olivia's demeanor around Ethan felt off, subtle glances, shared laughter that seemed too intimate. Sophia dismissed these thoughts as paranoia, unwilling to entertain the possibility of betrayal. As the days turned into weeks, Sophia's world grew increasingly isolating. Ethan's absences became more frequent, his explanations more vague. Sophia tried to hold on to the life they had built, clinging to the belief that their love could withstand the challenges they faced. But deep down, a nagging voice whispered that the foundation of their marriage was crumbling. One evening, as Sophia sat alone in their grand living room, the weight of her doubts became too heavy to bear. She stared at the wedding photo on the mantel, the image of a smiling couple radiating happiness and hope. Tears welled in her eyes as she whispered to herself, "Where did we go wrong?" The silence in the house was deafening, a stark contrast to the vibrant life they had once shared. Sophia resolved to confront Ethan, to demand answers, to fight for the love they had promised each other. Little did she know, the truth she sought would shatter the very foundation of her world. The confrontation Sophia had envisioned never came. Life moved forward, and so did Ethan's increasing distance. Every attempt she made to speak with him about their fading connection was met with deflection or vague reassurances. "I'm just under a lot of pressure at work," he would say with a quick kiss on her forehead before retreating to his study. Sophia, though frustrated, convinced herself to wait for the right time to have a serious conversation. But that time never arrived. It was on a stormy evening in December when Sophia's life took an unimaginable turn. She had spent the day attending a charity gala she'd organized, an event dedicated to funding programs for children in underserved communities. The event was a resounding success, but Sophia felt an emptiness within her, a yearning for Ethan to have been by her side, showing his support. Instead, he had sent a polite excuse, citing another work obligation. The rain poured heavily as Sophia's driver navigated the slippery streets back to their estate. The windshield wipers struggled against the deluge, and visibility was poor. Sophia stared out the window, her thoughts swirling as violently as the storm outside. She wondered if she had been foolish to believe in Ethan, to invest her whole heart in someone who now seemed so distant. Her chest tightened with the weight of unspoken words. But before she could delve deeper into her thoughts, the car jolted violently. A speeding vehicle, seemingly out of nowhere, slammed into the side of Sophia's car with a deafening crash. The world around her spun in a cacophony of shattered glass, screeching metal, and blinding pain. And then there was silence. Darkness enveloped her, pulling her into an abyss where time ceased to exist. When Sophia awoke, she was met with a void. No light, no sound. Panic surged through her as she tried to scream. But the only sound that escaped her lips was a weak, strained murmur. She reached out, her hands searching for something, anything that could anchor her to reality. The texture of crisp hospital sheets and the faint warmth of a nurse's hand were the only sensations she could perceive. Tears streamed down her face as she realized her world had changed forever. The doctors delivered the devastating news through written notes, which the nurse carefully placed in Sophia's trembling hands. The accident had left her both blind and deaf. The trauma to her head had damaged her optic nerves and auditory system beyond repair. Sophia's once vibrant world of color and sound had been reduced to a silent, pitch-black void. She couldn't fathom how she would live like this, unable to see the faces of her loved ones or hear their comforting voices. The isolation was suffocating. Days turned into weeks as Sophia struggled to adapt to her new reality. The hospital became her reluctant home, a place where she was surrounded by people, yet felt completely alone. Her parents visited frequently, their presence marked by the warmth of their hugs and the gentle squeeze of her hands. But Ethan's visits were different. While he came often in the beginning, his demeanor was cold, almost obligatory. The man who had once held her with tenderness now seemed distant, as though he couldn't bear to be in her presence. Sophia could sense the change, even without sight or sound. The way Ethan's hand would briefly pat her shoulder instead of lingering. The absence of his once reassuring touch, it all spoke volumes. Her heart ached as she tried to reconcile the man she had married with the stranger who now sat beside her hospital bed in silence. She wanted to scream, to demand answers, but she was trapped within herself, her thoughts echoing in the darkness of her mind. After weeks of recovery, Sophia was discharged from the hospital. Returning home should have been a moment of solace, but it felt like stepping into a prison. The estate that had once been her sanctuary now loomed large and cold, devoid of the light and life she had once known. Every room was a reminder of what she had lost, and the silence was deafening. Ethan's behavior became increasingly troubling. He would leave early in the morning and return late at night, sometimes not coming home at all. Sophia spent countless hours alone, her world reduced to tactile memories and fragmented thoughts. She yearned for Ethan's presence, his voice, his touch, anything to make her feel less invisible. But he remained elusive, his absences growing longer and his excuses thinner. Sophia's only source of comfort came from Olivia, who visited regularly. Olivia would sit beside her, holding her hand and guiding her around the house. She became Sophia's lifeline, helping her navigate the challenges of her new reality. Yet, even in Olivia's presence, Sophia began to feel a nagging unease. She couldn't explain it, but there was something about the way Olivia and Ethan interacted that didn't sit right with her. Their whispers, their hushed laughter, it was as if they shared a secret Sophia wasn't meant to uncover. One evening, as Sophia sat alone in the living room, she felt the faint vibration of footsteps approaching. The familiar scent of Ethan's cologne filled the room, but instead of bringing comfort, it made her tense. Moments later, she sensed Olivia's perfume, a delicate floral scent that Sophia had grown to associate with her friend. The realization struck her like a lightning bolt. Why would Olivia and Ethan be together without her? Why was her best friend here so late? When Ethan hadn't even told her he was coming home, Sophia's heightened senses picked up on the subtle shifts in their movements. She felt the couch shift slightly as someone sat down. The faint vibrations of soft laughter that seemed far too intimate. Her mind raced, piecing together fragments of sensations and memories. The growing suspicion that had taken root in her heart began to bloom into a full-fledged fear. Over the following days, Sophia became hyper-aware of every interaction between Ethan and Olivia. She noticed how Olivia lingered when Ethan was around, how their voices softened when they spoke to each other. Though she couldn't see or hear them, she felt their connection in the way they moved, the way they seemed to orbit each other in a way that excluded her. Sophia's heart broke as the truth became undeniable. The two people she had trusted most, her husband and her best friend, were betraying her. She wanted to confront them, to demand answers. But how could she? How could she accuse them without evidence, without sight or sound to back her claims? She felt trapped, her body confined to a reality she couldn't control, and her mind spiraling with anguish. The betrayal cut deeper than any physical wound. Sophia had lost her vision, her hearing, and now the foundation of trust she had built her life upon. But amidst the pain, a flicker of resolve began to grow. She refused to be a passive victim, to let the people who had wronged her strip her of her dignity. Sophia decided she would confront the truth head-on, even if it shattered what little remained of her world. Sophia knew she could no longer remain silent, trapped in the void of her new reality. The realization that Ethan and Olivia had betrayed her was like a sharp knife to her chest. Yet it also sparked a fire deep within. She had already lost so much: her sight, her hearing, but she would not lose her dignity. Determined to take control, she decided to confront the truth, even if it meant uncovering more pain. She spent days formulating a plan, relying on the routines and patterns she had memorized during her months of blindness. She asked her housekeeper to guide her to specific rooms at certain times, pretending it was for a change of scenery. Quietly, she tracked Ethan's and Olivia's movements, using her heightened senses to piece together their schedules. The tension in the house was palpable, but Sophia remained composed, refusing to let them see her inner turmoil. One evening, Sophia requested Olivia to take her to the garden, claiming she needed fresh air. Olivia hesitated, but eventually agreed, leading her outside. The garden, once a place of solace for Sophia, now felt like a battleground. She could feel the cool breeze on her skin, the faint vibrations of the flowers swaying in the wind. Taking a deep breath, she steadied herself and spoke, her voice calm but filled with resolve. "Olivia," she began, "I may have lost my sight and my hearing, but I haven't lost my intuition. I know something is going on between you and Ethan." The words hung in the air like a thunderclap. Sophia felt Olivia's hand tense against hers, the tremor revealing her guilt. For a long moment, there was only silence, broken only by the soft rustle of leaves in the wind. Finally, Olivia spoke, her voice shaky. "Sophia, I didn't mean for this to happen." Olivia stammered, "I never wanted to hurt you." Sophia's heart cracked further, but she remained composed. "You betrayed me," she said, her voice firm. "You and Ethan both. I trusted you with everything, and you've taken advantage of me in the worst possible way." Tears streamed down Olivia's face as she tried to explain. But Sophia had heard enough. "Leave," she commanded, her tone icy. "I can't have you in my life anymore." Sophia could feel Olivia hesitate, her grip faltering before she let go entirely. Without another word, Olivia turned and walked away, leaving Sophia alone in the garden. The cool night air wrapped around her as tears streamed down her cheeks. But she felt a strange sense of relief. She had confronted Olivia, and while the pain was still raw, she knew she had taken the first step toward reclaiming her power. Ethan arrived home late that night, as he often did. Sophia, however, was waiting for him in the living room. She sat upright on the couch, her posture commanding, her face a mask of calm determination. Ethan paused in the doorway, clearly surprised to find her awake. "Sophia," he said cautiously, "what are you doing up so late?" She gestured for him to sit, her movements deliberate, Once he was seated, she took a deep breath and began. Ethan, I know what you've been doing. With Olivia. The color drained from his face. Sophia, I don't lie to me, she interrupted, her voice sharp. I may be blind and deaf, but I am not stupid. I've known for a while now. I just needed to hear it from you. Ethan fumbled for words, his excuses faltering under her unwavering gaze. Finally, he sighed, his shoulders slumping in defeat. It wasn't supposed to be like this, he muttered. I didn't mean for it to happen. Sophia's heart ached at his admission, but she refused to let him see her pain. You didn't mean for it to happen? She repeated bitterly. You made a choice. Ethan, both of you did. And now, you're going to live with the consequences. Ethan leaned forward, his voice pleading. Sophia, please, I can fix this. I made a mistake, but I still love you. Sophia shook her head. Love? You call this love? You abandoned me when I needed you most. You turned to my best friend while I was trapped in darkness and silence. That's not love, Ethan. That's cowardice. For the first time, Ethan was silent, his excuses exhausted. Sophia stood, her movements slow but purposeful. You'll be hearing from my lawyer, she said. Pack your things and leave. Ethan stared at her, stunned. You're ending this? Just like that? Sophia's lips curved into a faint, bittersweet smile. You ended at the moment you betrayed me. I'm simply taking back what's mine. In the weeks that followed, Sophia began the arduous process of rebuilding her life. She filed for divorce and cut ties with Olivia completely. Her parents rallied around her, their support unwavering. They hired specialists to help Sophia adapt to her new reality, teaching her how to navigate the world without sight or sound. Though the journey was challenging, Sophia embraced it with determination. Her charity work became her lifeline, a way to channel her pain into something meaningful. She founded an organization dedicated to supporting individuals with disabilities, using her platform to raise awareness and provide resources. The work gave her a renewed sense of purpose, a reason to keep moving forward. Sophia also reconnected with old friends, those who had stood by her before Ethan and Olivia entered her life. Their laughter and companionship reminded her of the joy that still existed in the world. Even amidst the darkness, slowly but surely, she began to feel whole again. 1 year after the accident, Sophia stood in her garden, the same place where she had confronted Olivia. The sun warmed her face. The breeze carried the scent of blooming flowers, and she felt a deep sense of peace. Though she couldn't see the beauty around her or hear the sounds of nature, she could feel it in her soul. Sophia had lost so much, but she had also gained something invaluable: resilience. She had faced betrayal, heartbreak, and unimaginable loss. Yet she had emerged stronger, more determined than ever. Her life was no longer defined by what she had lost, but by what she had built in its place. As she stood there, a smile graced her lips. For the first time in a long time, she felt truly free. Thank you for joining us on this emotional journey. Sophia's story is a powerful reminder that sometimes the truth comes to light in the most unexpected ways. We hope it inspired you to trust your instincts and seek the truth. No matter how difficult, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more stories that touch the heart.